Hey girls, welcome back to my channel. I'm Chloe Somerfield, founder of Soul and Sparkle, and you are watching SAS TV. It's so great to have you here, and I'm really a little bit nervous about today's video because I'm going to be talking about my story, and I really felt like it was about time that I shared with you all my history and where I've come from to where I am now. It's very different, and quite often I have a lot of women come up to me and just assume that I've been a Christian my whole life, that I've loved the Lord my whole life, and it's just not true. I was a very broken, reckless, dangerous to myself teenager, and I just wanted to dive in a little bit into my testimony and how I found God, and I also really wanted to speak into the beauty of that what has been broken in your life can be made whole, and it's definitely been true of my life, and that things that were broken and busted within myself, or with my relationships and my identity, God has transformed and made new. And so I want to impart that truth and that hope to you. So yeah, this is my story. So I grew up without my dad being around. For as long as I can remember, my parents have been separated. I've never, I don't have any memories of them being together. And so for the most part, it was mum and me. I'm an only child. And I think it's you know, fairly safe to say that growing up without a constant father figure in your life develops daddy issues. And so well into my early teens and throughout most of my life up until meeting God, I had this need to be approved and to be wanted by guys. And I can't remember a time where that wasn't important to me, to have that affirmation and to have that approval from other boys. So that's something that started really early on in my life. I was also just the kind of girl that would do anything to fit in with the in crowd. I just had this constant desire to be needed, to be wanted, to be liked, to be just to be accepted. Like, that was probably the biggest need in my life, and I just had no sense of self-worth, no sense of identity, no sense of self-love, just completely riddled in insecurities, completely hated myself, and just constantly wanted to change and to look like someone else and to be like the other girls. I just had no interest and no joy that came from within. And so that led me to mingle with the wrong crowd, and often that leads you to mingle with other girls and guys that also have the same insecurities. Growing up as an only child with a single mum, things were pretty rough. They weren't the best, but at the same time, I don't remember having a negative childhood experience. My mum was amazing in just loving me and just being the best that she could. It wasn't really like, things didn't really get messy until high school. And that's when everything started to really go downhill in my life. I just got involved with the wrong people, and was just plagued by my own insecurities, that I just found myself in situations that I was too young to know. And I look back, and my first sexual experience is at the age of 13, and even before that I knew about things and would talk about things that no 13-year-old should really be talking about. And one thing led to another, and I just found myself going deeper and further and faster, just too far too fast, and it kind of just consumed me. And it turned into drinking through the weeknights and turning up to school with a hangover. I was going to parties and just binge drinking, partying, just wasting everything away. I remember I had no worth within myself. I remember having no love or respect for myself, really. If we can just be totally honest, I don't recall ever thinking wow, I'm a really beautiful person, and I'm going to treat myself accordingly. And I would just wear the most insane, skimpy, revealing clothes, because I knew that if I would do that, I would get the attention from guys, and that attention meant I'm worthy. That attention meant, okay, yep, I'm lovable because they tell me I'm lovable, because they can see my body, and I'm using my body as the object and desire of their affection. And I mean, looking back on it now, it just seems so crazy, but that was my normal. That's how I realized, yep, this is the way to feel loved. And at the time, it felt good, because when you lust after something and it satisfies, it will fulfill you for a brief moment in time. And I just remember going deeper and deeper into this lifestyle, almost getting involved in drugs, and I was smoking, and this is all before being 18. This is all before 18 years old, and all before knowing God. And I'm just in this reckless, constant party state, living for the weekend, getting drunk, hooking up. That's my life. And I remember my mum gets saved. My mum starts working with this Christian invites her to the church. My mum gets radically saved, and I'm just like, what the heck? I think she's a total nutcase. I think she's crazy as, and I don't want anything to do with it. I think it's weird. I think it's whacked. I just think that's not important. Sure, God's real, but you're taking this way too far. And she's at it for months and months, and I end up begrudgingly going to a couple of services with her, and I'm just not there. I'm not interested. I'm this is crap. This is lame. This is not where I want to be. And a little bit of time goes by, and at this point, I'm still partying. I'm still hooking up. I'm still, drinking, smoking, all of that stuff. And I just remember meeting this girl in high school, and she was part of my music class, and I didn't really talk to her all that much, but randomly we got talking, and she invited me to a youth group, and never really heard of it before. And I was just oh, cool. Sounds like a bunch of, young people hanging out. And at this point, I must say that I was a pretty friendly person in high school. I've always wanted to be friends with everyone, but I just always found it hard to fit in. I always found it hard to make friends. And I never understood why. And so, of course, I would like to reciprocate when someone else is responding. So I was okay, cool, I'll check this out. So I went to a youth group for a couple of weeks, and they started to promote that they were having a youth camp over the summer. And, as I'm going to the youth group, I'm learning a bit more about God, and I'm okay, this is interesting. Maybe there is more to it. And I still remember, as I'm going to church, I'm still partying on the weekends, drinking, taking selfies with my friends, wearing the skimpiest clothes, and I'm in this weird transition of my life. And I just remember I would go to these parties and try and get drunk, and there'd just be this thing in the back of my mind going there's something more than this, there's something deeper than this, and this isn't going to last forever. And I just couldn't shake that, and that's when I sort of knew there's got to be something more to God than just him being in the sky. And so went to the youth camp, and all really new and fresh, and I'm sure that I stood out. And from there, they had a guest speaker, and the guest speaker is what you would call like a really prophetic person. And by that I mean that they hear from God and they're able to share what they hear from God with certain people. So anyway, on the Saturday night, no, it wasn't Saturday, it was Friday. On the Friday night, he preaches a message, and then he does some prophetic ministry at the end where he calls a few people out and he shares things that God is saying to him about those people. And he picks me. And he just said stuff that only God would know, that only I would know, because I wouldn't have told anyone else at this camp. And he just said things about my life and about my heart and what I was longing for and yearning for, and basically all of that stuff about self-worth, all of that stuff about trying to find my attention and trying to find my acceptance in all of those people and things. Like, he just brought it all back to only God will satisfy you, and he sees you, and he sees you as so worthy, and you know, he wouldn't just allow anything or anyone to just come and touch your life. That he just sees so much value and so much worthiness on your life, that he wants me to see that in myself. I don't know how much I'm doing justice of this story because this is the first time I'm going public with it, which is still really like scary, but I just want to be really like open with you girls as to like, my life was a mess before I knew Jesus. Like, it was a complete mess, and that youth camp was the start of what actually became quite a long journey to really giving God my entire life. Because although I really experienced God for the first time at that youth camp, and I was like, whoa, okay, he's real, I still had like 2.5 years late of ongoing crap. And I still went back into like an old relationship that was completely toxic and purely like superficial and physical. And then from there, like, I was like still had this habit of running to boys to fulfill my need. And then I got involved with, you know, a guy in church, and then that was like even more toxic, and there was just so much like, you know, there was manipulation and abuse, and we were just two like really broken people just trying to like find our way. And so like, even after encountering God for the first time at that youth camp, I still struggled through a lot of stuff. And I think it's because I was still trying to hold on to part of my old life. I wasn't really willing to surrender all. I was just like, oh, okay, like, you can have this little part of my life, God, but not all of it. And after going through that terrible, terrible relationship and experiencing all of that heartache and shame and pain, I was at the end of it, and I was just like, okay, God, I don't have anything left. Like, I've tried to do it half my way. I've tried to give you a little bit, and I'm at the point now where I'm like, I've got nothing to lose, so I'm putting all of my cards in the table. And from there, I've just never looked back, and I've given over everything, and it's still a daily practice. It's still a constant choice to hand over everything. But I can honestly say that after that really difficult relationship, like the next day, after saying to God, like, I'm giving you everything, and I'm not turning away, I just felt the biggest weight lift off my shoulders. Like, I literally felt like this cloak of heaviness just floated off of me. And even though I still had pain in my heart that, you know, and healing to go through, that God was revealed at a later time, there was just this inexplicable joy. There was this peace. There was this hope. I actually looked in the mirror and like I enjoyed looking at myself, and I started to learn what that meant to love myself, and I just threw myself into the things of God, and I haven't looked back. And I don't know where you're at. I don't know if you identify with part of my story or all of it, or maybe some of it, and if you can see parts of it in your own life. But if there's anything I can share with you about Jesus through my testimony, is that he is a transformative God, that he will take your brokenness and he will turn it into something beautiful. And he's done that in my life time and time again. Like, I have no idea how I'm like sitting here in front of you filming this video, because 7 years ago, like, I would never have seen this. I just never would have seen this in my life. I just would have thought you're crazy. And to be talking about God and what he's done in my life, it's just unreal. And I can't explain it. I just can't stop talking enough about his goodness and what he's done. And so I don't know if this is of any encouragement, but he saved me, and I am not ashamed to say that I need a savior, because I can't save myself. And I can't trust my own thoughts. I can't trust my own feelings. It's just that's just way too much power and pressure to put on myself. And so I need Jesus, and I know without a doubt that he is real, he is true, and he is so good, and he turned my life around. I hope that my testimony encourages you that wherever you're at, that God will continue to work and move in your life. And even though I've come so far, or what people would say is so far, I'm still just at the beginning of my journey. And I would love to hear a bit about you and how you came to know God, or where was that moment where your faith really clicked in for you. I'd love to hear that, so let me know in the comments. And thanks for listening and watching. Please subscribe, like this video if you enjoy it, and I'll speak to you next time. Bye.